The snow fell softly against the windows of Rosalie's family bistro, each flake catching the glow of string lights wrapped around the awnings. Inside, the warmth of Christmas Eve filled every corner, laughter bubbling from crowded tables, the scent of roasted garlic and fresh bread mixing with cinnamon from the dessert cart, the soft crooning of Nat King Cole drifting through speakers mounted near vintage photographs of the neighborhood. Simone Taylor sat alone at table 12 by the window, watching couples lean into each other's warmth while families passed plates of food with easy affection. Her reflection stared back at her from the glass, a beautiful black woman with deep brown skin that seemed to absorb the golden light, natural curls styled in an elegant twist, and dark eyes that carried shadows no amount of concealer could hide. She checked her phone. 7:43 p.m. 43 minutes late. The water glass before her had been refilled 3 times. The sympathetic glances from the waitress had evolved from understanding to pity, and the breadbasket sat untouched, a monument to hope slowly dying. Her phone buzzed. Finally. But the message that appeared made her stomach drop, her breath catch, her vision blur at the edges. "Hey, can't make it tonight. Been thinking about it, and honestly, you're just too much work, too serious, too intense, always trying to fix everyone. I need someone lighter, someone fun. Good luck with everything. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you." Simone read it twice. 3 times. The words didn't change. Too much work. She thought about the past 6 weeks, the careful dates she'd agreed to after her sister Renee had worn her down with persistent encouragement. Simone, you can't spend every Christmas alone. Brandon left 2 years ago. You have to try again. She'd been upfront with Derek from the beginning, told him about her work as an art therapist at Children's Mercy Hospital, about the kids she worked with who were fighting cancer and trauma and grief, about how sometimes she came home emotionally exhausted, how she needed quiet evenings to recharge. He'd said he understood. He'd said he admired her compassion. He'd lied. Simone's hands trembled as she set the phone down. The couple at the next table kissed under a sprig of mistletoe someone had hung from the light fixture. Across the room, a little boy climbed onto his father's lap, giggling as the man pretended to steal his nose. She was surrounded by love, by family, by connection. And she had never felt more alone. Just leave, she told herself. Pay for the water, walk out with whatever dignity you have left, and spend Christmas Eve the way you've spent the last 2, with a bottle of wine and a stack of patient files that need reviewing. She raised her hand to signal for the check, blinking rapidly to keep tears from falling. She would not cry here. Not in public. Not where people could see how thoroughly she'd been rejected. Again. But before the waitress could reach her, Simone heard small voices nearby. Bright, curious, insistent. "Daddy, look, that lady is crying." "Zara, we shouldn't stare. But she's all alone on Christmas Eve. That's so sad." "Ivy, baby, sometimes people want to be alone. Nobody wants to be alone on Christmas Eve. Mommy always said Christmas is for being together." The voices moved closer. Simone looked up, hastily wiping at her eyes, and found herself staring at 2 identical little girls. They couldn't have been more than 6 years old, with beautiful deep brown skin that glowed in the warm restaurant lighting, thick, coily hair pulled into 2 high puffs decorated with red and green ribbons that matched their Christmas dresses. Their dark eyes sparkled with intelligence and something else, an old soul wisdom that seemed far too mature for their small faces. They stood directly in front of Simone's table, hands clasped together, studying her with the intensity of scientists examining a fascinating specimen. "Hi," said the one on the left, her voice confident and direct. "I'm Zara. This is my sister Ivy. Why are you crying?" "Zara." A man's voice, deep and warm but edged with embarrassment, came from behind them. "You can't just— I'm so sorry, ma'am. My daughters haven't quite grasped the concept of personal boundaries yet." Simone looked up at the man now standing behind the twins, and something in her chest stuttered. He was tall, with broad shoulders that filled out a simple gray sweater, deep brown skin, and kind eyes that reminded her of melted chocolate. His fade was neat despite the exhaustion visible in his posture, and when he smiled apologetically, dimples appeared in his cheeks. He had strong hands. She noticed them immediately, work-worn but gentle as they rested on his daughter's shoulders, and there was something about the way he carried himself that spoke of quiet strength, of a man who'd learned to bear weight without complaint. "It's okay," Simone managed, her voice rougher than she intended. "They're just being kind." "But you are crying," Ivy said softly, stepping closer. Her voice was gentler than her sister's, more careful. "Did someone hurt your feelings?" The question, asked with such innocent directness, broke something open in Simone's chest. "Yes," she admitted before she could stop herself. "Someone did." "That's mean," Zara announced with fierce indignation, crossing her small arms. "Especially on Christmas Eve. Daddy says Christmas Eve is for kindness and family and love. Right, Daddy?" The man, their father, looked mortified and charmed in equal measure. "I did say that, but I also said we should mind our own business and let people have their privacy." "But Daddy," Ivy protested, "Mommy always said if you see someone who's sad, you should try to help. Remember? She said that's what angels do." The change in the man's expression was instantaneous. The easy warmth flickered, shadowed by grief so deep Simone recognized it immediately. She'd seen that look before, in her own mirror, in the faces of parents at the hospital who'd lost children, in the eyes of anyone who'd loved deeply and lost completely. He cleared his throat, his hand moving unconsciously to touch a thin silver chain around his neck. "Your mother did say that, baby girl." "So, we're helping," Zara declared with finality. Then she turned back to Simone with the seriousness of a diplomat negotiating peace. "Were you supposed to meet someone for dinner?" "Zara?" "Yes," Simone interrupted gently, finding herself drawn into this strange, unexpected conversation despite her pain. "I was. But he decided not to come." "He stood you up?" Zara's eyes went wide with outrage. "That's the worst. That happened to Auntie Renee once, and she said the guy was a—" She stopped, glancing at her father. "A bad word." "Zara Lynn Reid," the man said, but there was affection in his warning. "I didn't say it," Zara defended. "I just said she said it." Despite everything, the humiliation, the loneliness, the crushing weight of rejection, Simone laughed. It surprised her, the sound bubbling up genuine and light. "Your aunt was probably right," Simone said. "So you're going to eat all alone?" Ivy asked, her small face scrunched with concern. "On Christmas Eve? I was actually just about to leave." "No," both girls spoke in unison, their voices rising with distress. "You should eat with us," Zara announced as if this solved everything. "We have lots of room," Ivy added quickly, "and Daddy always orders too much food anyway. He says his eyes are bigger than his stomach." The man, Marcus, she would learn later, looked like he wanted the floor to open up and swallow him whole. His ears had darkened with embarrassment, and he was shaking his head apologetically. "Girls, I'm sure this nice lady doesn't want to spend her Christmas Eve with strangers." "But we're not strangers anymore," Zara interrupted with impeccable 6-year-old logic. "We know her name is—" She paused, looking at Simone expectantly. "Simone," she supplied, surprising herself. "Simone Taylor." "See?" Zara turned triumphantly to her father. "We know her name. That means we're friends now. Right, Miss Simone?" Simone looked at these two little girls with their hopeful faces and their father's kind eyes. She thought about going home to her empty apartment, about spending another Christmas Eve alone with her grief and her work files and the ghost of Brandon's final words before he left. "You care more about other people's pain than about us. I can't compete with that." She thought about Derek's text message still glowing on her phone screen. Too much work, too serious, too intense. And then she looked at this man standing before her, exhausted but patient, clearly mortified but not angry at his daughter's boldness. A man, wearing a simple gray sweater that had been carefully chosen despite its modest price tag. A man whose wedding ring was conspicuously absent, but whose grief was still visible in the shadows under his eyes. "I'd love to join you," Simone heard herself say, "if your father doesn't mind." Marcus Reid looked at her for a long moment, really looked at her, and in that gaze, Simone felt something pass between them. Recognition, perhaps. The kind that comes when two people who've learned to carry weight alone suddenly realize they don't have to. "We'd be honored," he said quietly, then with a small smile that made his dimples deepen. "Though I should warn you, there's an ongoing debate about whether Santa can actually fit down apartment building chimneys. It might get heated." "He can if he uses magic," Ivy explained seriously as she took Simone's hand with the confidence of a child who'd never learned strangers could be dangerous. "Magic makes everything possible." "No, he uses science," Zara countered, taking Simone's other hand. "Like shrinking technology. Daddy explained it." "I said maybe," Marcus clarified, following as his daughters literally dragged Simone toward their table. "I said maybe there's a scientific explanation." "See? Science," Zara declared triumphantly. Their table was in the corner, still set for 3. The girls had been working on coloring placemats, Christmas trees and snowmen rendered in enthusiastic, chaotic crayon strokes. A booster seat sat empty at one end, and the 4th chair had clearly been pushed aside earlier to make room. But now Zara and Ivy pulled that 4th chair back into place with determination, situating it directly across from their father. "You sit here," Ivy instructed, patting the seat, "so you can be part of the family." Part of the family. The words settled over Simone like a warm blanket. As she sat down, Marcus caught her eye again. "I really am sorry about this. They've always been—" He paused, searching for the right word. "Determined," Ivy supplied helpfully. "Stubborn," Zara corrected. "I was going to say compassionate," Marcus finished softly. "They get that from their mother." There it was again. That grief, still raw even though Simone could tell from the way he spoke about her, present tense slipping into past, the unconscious touch to his necklace, that she'd been gone for a while. "Your mother sounds like she was a wonderful woman," Simone said gently. "She was," Zara said matter-of-factly. "She was a nurse. She helped sick people feel better." "But then she got sick," Ivy added, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "And the doctors couldn't make her better. She went to heaven 2.5 years ago." Simone's throat tightened. "I'm so sorry." "It's okay," Ivy said, though her eyes were suspiciously bright. "Daddy says she's always with us, in here." She patted her small chest, right over her heart. Marcus's jaw clenched, his eyes fixed on the table. Simone recognized. That look, too. The desperate attempt to hold emotion together in front of children who needed you to be strong. The waitress appeared, a middle-aged black woman with silver-streaked locks and knowing eyes. She took in the scene. The 2 little girls beaming, their father's carefully controlled expression, and Simone's tear-stained face, and smiled softly. "Well now, looks like your table got bigger," she said warmly. "That's the magic of Christmas, isn't it? Room for one more?" "Yes, ma'am," Zara said politely. "This is our new friend, Miss Simone. Someone was mean to her, so we're making her feel better." The waitress met Simone's eyes with a look of such maternal understanding that Simone had to blink back fresh tears. "Baby, anyone who'd be mean to you doesn't deserve to breathe the same air. Now, let me get you something good to eat. What sounds nice?" For the next hour, Simone experienced something she hadn't felt in years: belonging. The girls insisted on sharing their story about how they'd picked out their Christmas dresses, A saga involving 3 different stores, a near meltdown over which shade of red was more Christmassy, and their father patiently following them through mall crowds during his only day off. "Daddy hates shopping," Ivy confided in a stage whisper. "I don't hate it," Marcus protested mildly. "I just prefer efficiency." "He walked into a mannequin," Zara announced gleefully, "because he was looking at his phone instead of where he was going." Marcus's ears darkened. "I was checking the warehouse schedule." "And the mannequin fell over," Ivy continued, dissolving into giggles. "And the lady who worked there thought Daddy broke it on purpose and she was so mad. But then Daddy explained and she laughed," Zara finished. "And she gave us candy canes." "So really," Marcus said with mock seriousness, "walking into that mannequin was a tactical decision to acquire candy canes." The girls shrieked with laughter, and Simone found herself laughing too. Really laughing, the kind that made her stomach hurt and her face ache. When was the last time she'd laughed like this? As their food arrived, Marcus had indeed ordered too much: fried chicken, mac and cheese, collard greens, cornbread, and sweet potato casserole. The girls insisted on hearing about Simone's work. "You help kids who are sick?" Ivy asked, her eyes wide. "I help them express their feelings through art," Simone explained. "Sometimes when you're going through something really hard, it's difficult to find the words. But painting or drawing or sculpting, it can help you say what you need to say without words." "Like when Daddy plays music in the kitchen," Zara said thoughtfully. "He doesn't talk much when he's sad, but he plays music. Jazz music. Really old stuff." Marcus cleared his throat. "I didn't realize you noticed that." "We notice everything," Ivy said simply. Simone watched Marcus's face, the flash of vulnerability, quickly hidden. She understood that too, thinking you were protecting your children from your pain, only to discover they'd been witnessing it all along. "Do you paint?" Ivy asked Simone. "Sometimes. Mostly I help others paint. But when I need to work through my own feelings, yes, I paint." "What do you paint when you're sad?" Zara asked with the bluntness only children could manage. Simone considered the question seriously. "Storms, usually. Dark skies and lightning. It helps me get the sad feelings out so they don't stay stuck inside." "That's smart," Ivy said sagely. "Daddy cooks when he's sad." Marcus looked startled. You do," Zara insisted. "Remember after we saw Mommy's picture last week and you got really quiet? You made that big pot of soup. Like, enough soup for 100 people. We gave it to Miss Patterson and Mr. Chen and Mrs. Williams," Ivy listed, "and you still froze 5 containers." Marcus's expression had gone carefully neutral, but Simone saw his hands tighten around his fork. "Cooking is a beautiful way to process emotion," Simone said gently, catching his eye. "Creating something nourishing from raw ingredients. Feeding people you care about. That's art, too." Something in Marcus's face softened. "I never thought about it that way." "Were you a chef?" Simone asked. "Almost." The word came out rough. "I was 2 semesters away from finishing my culinary degree when Camille, my wife, when she got her diagnosis. I dropped out to take care of her and the girls." He paused. "Never went back." "Why not?" The question came out before Simone could stop it. "I'm sorry, that's too personal." "No, it's okay." Marcus set down his fork, his gaze distant. "At first it was about survival. Working, caring for 2 toddlers, trying to keep everything together. Then it became about the girls needing stability. And now," he shrugged, "now I'm a night shift warehouse supervisor. It pays the bills, gives me health insurance, lets me be home when the girls get off the school bus." "But you still cook," Simone observed. "Every chance I get." A small smile played at his lips. "It's the one thing that still feels like mine." "Daddy makes the best grilled cheese in the universe," Zara announced with absolute conviction. 3 kinds of cheese," Ivy elaborated, "and he cuts the crusts off in a special way so it looks like flowers." "And his pancakes," Zara continued enthusiastically. "He makes them in shapes, animals and letters, and once he made one that looked exactly like Ivy's face." "It was a little scary," Ivy admitted. "Like I was eating myself." Simone laughed again, and Marcus grinned, a full, genuine smile that transformed his entire face. The exhaustion melted away, replaced by something warmer, lighter. For a moment, he looked years younger. "Your daughters are your biggest fans," Simone said softly. "They're my whole world," Marcus replied, and the love in his voice was so pure, so absolute, that Simone felt her eyes sting with fresh tears. This man, this stranger, sitting across from her in a modest family restaurant on Christmas Eve, was exactly what Derek's text had accused her of wanting. Someone serious. Someone who understood that love meant showing up even when you were exhausted. Someone who measured their worth not by what they achieved for themselves, but by what they built for others. "What about you?" Marcus asked, pulling Simone from her thoughts. "I'm guessing tonight wasn't your first choice for Christmas Eve plans." Simone glanced at her phone, still face up on the table, Derek's message still visible. Marcus followed her gaze, and she watched his expression darken as he read the words. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "That's cruel." "It's honest," Simone countered, trying to keep her voice steady. "I am too serious, too intense. I do care deeply about other people's pain. My ex-fiancé said the same thing when he left 2 years ago. Said I cared more about my patients than about us." "That's not true," Ivy said suddenly, her small face fierce. "Caring about people isn't bad. It's good. Mommy cared about everyone, and Daddy loved her more than anything." Marcus's eyes glistened. "Ivy's right. Camille had the biggest heart of anyone I've ever known. She'd bring home stray animals, volunteer at the shelter on her days off, spend hours talking to lonely patients who had no family." His voice dropped. "Loving her was the greatest privilege of my life, and I never once thought she cared too much." The words hit Simone like a physical blow. She'd spent 2 years believing Brandon's assessment of her, believing that her compassion was a flaw, that her capacity for empathy made her unlovable. "Your ex was wrong," Marcus continued, his dark eyes holding hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. "You're not too much. The right person would be grateful for that heart, not intimidated by it." Simone couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything but stare at this man who'd known her for less than an hour, but somehow understood her more than people she'd known for years. "Miss Simone," Zara said, breaking the charged moment. "Do you have anywhere to go after dinner?" "Zara," Marcus started, but Simone shook her head. "Just home, to my apartment." "Will anyone be there?" Ivy asked. "No, sweetheart. I live alone." The twins exchanged one of their mysterious twin looks, some silent communication passing between them. "You should come to our apartment," Ivy announced. "We're having hot chocolate and watching the Polar Express, and Daddy always falls asleep before the end," Zara added. "I do not," Marcus protested. "You do," both girls said in unison. Marcus looked at Simone, embarrassment and hope warring in his expression. "You absolutely don't have to." "I'd love to," Simone interrupted, and she meant it. The thought of going home alone, of sitting in her empty apartment with Derek's words echoing in her head, felt unbearable. But this warm chaos, these two extraordinary little girls and their father who understood grief and love and showing up, this felt like exactly where she needed to be. "Really?" Marcus asked, vulnerability flickering across his face. "Really?" Simone confirmed. The girls cheered so loudly that several nearby tables turned to look, and the waitress, who'd been watching from a distance with a knowing smile, appeared with a to-go box for the leftover cornbread. "For later," she said to Simone, then leaned down to whisper. "That's a good man right there. His wife's been gone 2.5 years, and I've never seen him so much as look at another woman. Until tonight." Simone's heart stuttered. "I don't think—" "I'm not saying anything has to happen, baby. I'm just saying sometimes God puts people in our path exactly when we need them. You were meant to be at that table tonight, and they were meant to find you." 20 minutes later, they stood outside Marcus's apartment building. It was modest, a 3-story brick structure in a working-class neighborhood where Christmas lights hung from balconies and wreaths decorated every door. The kind of building where neighbors knew each other's names and looked out for one another's children. Marcus's apartment was on the 2nd floor. As he unlocked the door, he paused, his hand on the knob. "Fair warning," he said, meeting Simone's eyes with a rueful smile. "It's not much, and the girls' toys have a tendency to migrate from their room to literally everywhere else." "Daddy's apologizing for the mess again," Zara stage-whispered to Simone. "He always does that," Ivy added, "even though Miss Patterson next door says our apartment is the cleanest one she's ever seen with kids in it." Marcus opened the door, and Simone stepped into warmth. The apartment was small but immaculately kept. A worn sofa sat against one wall covered with a handmade quilt in shades of blue and green. Children's drawings covered the refrigerator in the open kitchen, rainbows and stick figures and hearts rendered in crayon. A small Christmas tree stood in the corner, decorated heavily at the bottom where small hands could reach, sparse at the top. Photographs lined one wall, a timeline of love and loss. Simone's eyes were drawn to the largest photo. A beautiful black woman with radiant skin and natural hair styled in intricate braids, holding 2 newborns, her smile so bright it seemed to illuminate the frame. Marcus stood beside her, younger but recognizable, his arm around her shoulders, his expression full of unguarded joy. "That's Mommy," Ivy said softly, following Simone's gaze. "That was the day we came home from the hospital. Daddy says she was so happy she cried for 3 hours straight." Marcus cleared his throat, his hand moving unconsciously to the silver chain at his neck. "She said she couldn't believe she got to be your mother, that you were the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen." "We were pretty cute babies," Zara admitted with complete seriousness. Despite the weight of grief in the room, Simone smiled. "You were beautiful. You still are." The evening unfolded with unexpected ease. Marcus made hot chocolate from scratch, real chocolate melted with milk, vanilla, and a secret ingredient he refused to reveal despite the girls' protests. They settled on the couch, Simone wedged between 2 small bodies that radiated warmth and trust, Marcus in the armchair across from them. The Polar Express played on the modest TV, but Simone found herself watching the Reid family more than the movie. The way Marcus's eyes softened every time his daughters laughed. The way Zara and Ivy communicated in their mysterious twin language of glances and half-sentences. The way this small apartment, with its worn furniture and carefully budgeted Christmas, held more love than Simone had felt in years. True to prediction, Marcus fell asleep 20 minutes before the movie ended, his head tilted back against the chair, soft snores escaping his lips. "Told you," Zara whispered triumphantly. When the credits rolled, Simone carefully extracted herself from between the twins. "I should go. Let your daddy rest." "But it's snowing really hard now," Ivy said, pointing to the window where fat flakes fell thick and fast. Simone looked outside. The snow had intensified dramatically, the street already covered in several inches of white. "You can't drive in that," Zara insisted with the certainty of someone who'd clearly absorbed her father's safety lectures. "Daddy says if you can't see where you're going, you shouldn't be driving." "I'll be fine. Please stay." Ivy's voice was small, vulnerable. "Just tonight. We have a couch and lots of blankets and—" She paused, her eyes filling with tears. "I don't want you to be alone on Christmas Eve." Something in Simone's chest cracked open completely. She knelt down, pulling Ivy into a hug. "Okay, sweetheart, I'll stay." Zara joined the embrace, and for a moment, Simone held these 2 little girls who'd rescued her from the worst night of her life and showed her that kindness still existed in the world. Marcus woke to find Simone tucking a blanket around his daughters, now asleep on the couch, their heads together like bookends. "Hey," he whispered, his voice rough with sleep. "You're still here." "The snow got bad," Simone explained quietly. "The girls insisted I stay." Marcus stood, moving to the window. "It's really coming down." He turned back to her, concern in his eyes. "You should take my bed. I'll sleep out here." "Absolutely not. I'll take the couch." "Simone." The way he said her name, soft but firm, made her breath catch. "You're a guest." "Please, my room's just through there. Fresh sheets, clean towels in the bathroom. I insist." They stood in the dim light of the Christmas tree, snow falling outside, two sleeping children between them, and something shifted. The air felt charged, heavy with possibility. "Thank you," Simone whispered, "for tonight, for including me, for—" Her voice broke. "For making me feel like I'm not too much." Marcus stepped closer, and Simone could smell his cologne, something warm and woody with a hint of vanilla. "You're not," he said quietly. "You're exactly enough. And that guy, he's a fool." Their eyes met, held. For a moment, Simone thought he might reach for her, might close the distance between them. But instead, Marcus stepped back, shoving his hands in his pockets. "Get some rest," he said softly. "Merry Christmas, Simone." "Merry Christmas, Marcus." Simone woke to whispers and the smell of coffee. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then it all came rushing back. Derek's text, the twins appearing at her table, Marcus's kind eyes, falling asleep in a stranger's bed wearing borrowed pajamas that smelled like laundry detergent and something indefinably him. She sat up, noticing someone had left clothes on the chair, a clean sweatshirt and yoga pants, clearly women's clothes kept for some reason. In the kitchen, she found organized chaos. Marcus stood at the stove, flipping pancakes while Zara and Ivy set the table with intense concentration, their Christmas pajamas rumpled from sleep. "She's awake," Ivy announced, spotting Simone in the doorway. Marcus turned, and the smile that spread across his face made Simone's stomach flip. "Merry Christmas. Coffee? Please." As Simone accepted the mug, fixed exactly how she liked it after Marcus had asked her preference, Zara tugged on her hand. "Daddy's making special Christmas pancakes, shaped like snowflakes." "Each one is different," Marcus explained, carefully transferring an intricate pancake to a plate. "Just like real snow." They ate breakfast together, the morning light streaming through windows, and Simone thought about how 24 hours ago she'd been dreading this day. Now, sitting in a tiny apartment with a man and two girls she barely knew, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. After breakfast, Marcus walked Simone to her car. The snow had stopped, leaving the world blanketed in pristine white. The streets were being plowed, making driving possible again. "Thank you," Simone said again. "For everything. Thank you for giving my girls, for giving us, such a special Christmas Eve." Marcus paused, his breath forming clouds in the cold air. "I know this might be forward, but could I get your number? The girls are going to want to know you're okay, and He stopped, his ears darkening. "I'd like to check on you too, if that's okay." Simone's heart raced as she entered her number into his phone. When their fingers touched during the exchange, electricity sparked between them. "Marcus," she said softly, "can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Why did you let them drag me to your table? You could have stopped them." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes searching hers. "Because when I looked at you, sitting alone in that restaurant with tears in your eyes, I saw myself. 2.5 years ago, after Camille's funeral, sitting in our apartment surrounded by casserole dishes from neighbors, and I'd never felt more alone." He took a shaky breath. "I guess I thought if someone like you, someone who clearly has so much to offer, could end up alone and hurting, then maybe you needed what I needed back then. Someone to see you, to remind you that you matter." Tears streamed down Simone's face. "You did that. You and your daughters. You reminded me." Marcus reached out, gently wiping a tear from her cheek with his thumb. The gesture was tender, intimate, over too soon. "Drive safe," he said. "Text me when you get home." "I will." As Simone drove away, she looked in her rearview mirror. Marcus stood in the snow, hands in his pockets, watching her go. And in the window above, two little girls pressed their faces to the glass, waving frantically. Simone pulled over 2 blocks away and texted her sister Renee. "You won't believe what happened last night. Call me." Then she texted Marcus. "Thank you for the best Christmas Eve I've had in years. Tell the girls I'll never forget their kindness." His response came immediately. "They want to know if you like sledding. Apparently we're going to the park tomorrow and you're invited. No pressure, but 2 very persuasive 6-year-olds will be disappointed if you say no." Simone laughed, her heart feeling lighter than it had in months. "Tell them yes, I'd love to." As she continued home through snow-covered streets, Simone thought about Derek's message. Too much work, too serious, too intense. He'd been right about one thing. She was intense. She did feel deeply, loved fiercely, gave completely. But that wasn't a flaw. It was her greatest strength. And somewhere in this city, there was a man with kind eyes and 2 extraordinary daughters who understood that. Simone smiled as fresh snow began to fall. Maybe this was how her story began, after all. End of Part 1. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. The next afternoon, Simone stood in front of Marcus's building holding a sled she'd purchased that morning from a sporting goods store. The bright red plastic gleamed in the winter sunlight, and she felt both excited and terrified. "What am I doing?" she thought. "I barely know these people." But before doubt could take root, the building door burst open and 2 small tornadoes in matching purple snow pants launched themselves at her. "You came! You came!" Zara and Ivy shrieked in perfect unison, wrapping themselves around Simone's legs with enough force to nearly knock her over. "Careful, girls," Marcus called, jogging down the steps. He wore a thick jacket over a black hoodie, jeans that fit him perfectly, and a knit cap that made him look younger, more relaxed. Let Miss Simone breathe. "I can breathe," Simone laughed, her hands automatically moving to hug the girl's back. "And I brought reinforcements." She held up the sled, and the twins' eyes went wide. "That's the Turbo Glide 3000, Zara exclaimed with the reverence usually reserved for religious artifacts. "Daddy said it was too expensive." Marcus's ears darkened. "I said maybe next year." "Consider it a Christmas present," Simone interrupted, "for 2 girls who rescued me when I needed it most." Marcus met her eyes, and something warm passed between them. "You didn't have to do that." "I wanted to." The park was 15 minutes away, a sprawling expanse of rolling hills now transformed into a winter wonderland. Children shrieked with delight as they careened down slopes, parents stood in clusters drinking coffee from thermoses, and the air smelled like snow and pine and possibility. For the next 2 hours, Simone forgot about Derek, about loneliness, about feeling like too much. She sledded down hills with Ivy tucked between her legs, screaming with laughter. She helped Zara build a snowman with stick arms and a carrot nose stolen from Marcus's refrigerator. She participated in an epic snowball fight that left all 4 of them breathless and covered in white. And she watched Marcus. Watched the way he lifted his daughters onto the sled with effortless strength. The way he checked on them constantly without hovering. The way he laughed, deep and genuine, when Zara, accidentally, hit him in the face with a snowball. The way his eyes found Simone's across the snow-covered field, something warm and questioning in his gaze. "Miss Simone," Ivy said as they trudged up the hill for what felt like the 100th time. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course, sweetheart. Do you have a family? Like people who love you?" The question landed like a punch. Simone paused, considering how to answer. I have a sister, Renee. She lives across town with her husband and 2 kids. They love me very much. But you were alone on Christmas Eve, Zara observed, her 6-year-old logic cutting straight to the heart of things. Sometimes grown-ups choose to be alone, Simone said carefully, even when they have family. Why? Both girls asked together. Marcus caught up to them, slightly out of breath. Girls, that's personal. It's okay, Simone interrupted. She sat down on a bench and the twins immediately flanked her, their small bodies pressed close. Marcus sat on the other side of Zara, close enough that Simone could feel his warmth. After my fiancé left, Simone began slowly, I didn't want to be around happy couples and families. It hurt too much to see what I'd lost, so I started making excuses, working late, taking extra shifts at the hospital, telling my sister I was too busy for family dinners. That's sad, Ivy said, her small face serious. It was, Simone agreed. But sometimes we do sad things to protect ourselves from bigger sadness. Does that make sense? Kind of, Zara said, like how Daddy stopped going to church after Mommy died because it made him too sad to see her friends. Marcus's jaw tightened. Zara, it's true, Daddy, Ivy said gently. Mrs. Chen asked us about it. She said she missed seeing you. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, his eyes fixed on the horizon. I wasn't ready, he finally said. Being in that building where we got married, where we had you 2 baptized, where everyone knew Camille. His voice cracked. It felt like drowning. Simone reached across Zara and took his hand. The gesture was instinctive, immediate. Marcus's fingers closed around hers, holding tight. That makes sense too, Zara announced. Grown-ups are complicated. Despite the heavy moment, both Marcus and Simone laughed. Yes, Marcus said, ruffling his daughter's hair. Yes, we are. They sledded for another hour before the cold became too much. As they walked back to Marcus's car, a well-maintained but clearly older sedan, Zara and Ivy ran ahead, leaving Marcus and Simone walking side by side. Thank you for coming today, Marcus said quietly. The girls haven't stopped talking about you since yesterday. This morning at breakfast, Ivy announced that you're our new best friend, and Zara informed me that you're not allowed to move away ever. Simone smiled. They're pretty incredible. They are. Marcus paused, his breath forming clouds in the cold air. Can I be honest about something? Please. Yesterday, when you walked away from my apartment, it was the first time in 2.5 years that I felt... He stopped, struggling for words. I felt like maybe I could be more than just their dad. Like maybe there was still a part of me that was Marcus, not just Daddy. Simone's heart pounded. What part is that? Marcus turned to face her, snow dusting his shoulders, his dark eyes intense. The part that still wants connection, that still believes in second chances. That looked at you in that restaurant and thought... He took a breath. Thought, I'd like to know her story. I'd like to know yours too, Simone whispered. They stood there in the parking lot, snow falling gently around them. 2 people who'd been running from pain, finally standing still. Daddy, Miss Simone! Zara's voice broke the moment. We're freezing. Marcus smiled, the spell broken but not lost. We should get them home. Can Miss Simone come for dinner? Ivy called from the car. Please. Marcus looked at Simone, question in his eyes. I'd love to, she said, but only if you let me help cook. Marcus's smile widened. Deal. That evening, in Marcus's small kitchen, something shifted between them. He taught her his secret to perfect grilled cheese. Low heat and patience, just like he'd told his daughters. She showed him how to cut vegetables into fun shapes that made the girls actually excited about eating them. They moved around each other with surprising ease, his hand on her lower back as he reached past her for a pan, her fingers brushing his as she handed him. Ingredients. Every touch felt electric, charged with possibility. After dinner, as the girls played in their room, Marcus and Simone sat on the couch with coffee. "Can I ask you something?" Marcus said quietly. "Anything." "Why did your fiancé really leave?" Simone took a shaky breath. "He said I was too intense, that I cared more about my patients, dying children, than about planning our wedding. He wanted someone lighter, someone who could leave work at work." She paused. "The day he left, I just lost a patient, a 7-year-old girl who'd been fighting leukemia for 2 years. I came home destroyed, and Brandon was angry that I'd forgotten we had dinner reservations." Marcus's hand found hers. "I'm sorry." "The worst part," Simone's voice broke, "he made me believe he was right, that there was something wrong with me for caring so much." "There's nothing wrong with you," Marcus said fiercely. "Camille was a nurse. She came home crying sometimes after losing patients, and I held her while she cried because that's what you do when you love someone who has the courage to care deeply about other people's pain." Simone looked at this man, this stranger who was rapidly becoming so much more, and felt something crack open inside her chest. "Marcus," she whispered. "Simone." The way he said her name made her shiver. From the hallway came the sound of small footsteps. Both adults quickly moved apart as Ivy appeared in the doorway, clutching a stuffed elephant. "I can't sleep," she announced. "Can Miss Simone read us a story?" Marcus looked apologetic, but Simone was already standing. "I'd love to." That night, tucked between two small girls who smelled like strawberry shampoo and possibility, Simone read The Velveteen Rabbit and felt her broken heart begin to heal. As the girls drifted to sleep, Marcus walked Simone to the door. "Stay," he whispered, not romantically, just stay. "It's late, and I don't want you driving alone." Simone nodded, too full of emotion to speak. That night, she slept on the couch wrapped in the handmade quilt, feeling safer than she had in years. Over the next 3 weeks, Simone became woven into the Reid family fabric. Tuesday dinners, Saturday sledding, helping with homework, teaching the girls to paint. And slowly, carefully, she and Marcus circled each other, two wounded people learning to trust again. Until the night Marcus kissed her. It was late January, the girls asleep, snow falling outside. They'd been talking on the couch, and suddenly his hand was on her cheek, his eyes asking permission. When their lips met, it felt like coming home. "I'm falling for you," Marcus whispered against her mouth. "I'm already there," Simone breathed. But the next morning, everything changed. Simone's phone rang, her sister Renee's panicked voice. "Brandon's getting married, to Derek's sister. They want to meet you, to clear the air, before the wedding." The past wasn't finished with them yet.